Hey everyone, welcome to the video. Thank you so much for joining me here. We're going to be doing some Star Wars content again this week. This time we're going to be looking at a character from the Star Wars series. I was again sifting through Star Wars content, looking for what I wanted to work on this week, and I landed on a character that more recently has been very important in the Star Wars universe, just showed up in the live action shows fairly recently, and that is Ahsoka Tano. Ahsoka has been a character from when she first appeared in I believe it was the Clone Wars animated movie, which then became the Star Wars The Clone Wars animated show, and into Star Wars Rebels, and now into The Mandalorian and Boba Fett. So we're going to be breaking down her character, looking through the lens of kind of the storytelling aspects of how this character has progressed and what we might be able to see from her in the future. So let's go ahead and get started. At the beginning of the show, Ahsoka was kind of a character to be a foil for Anakin Skywalker. She was given to him as his Padawan by Yoda to teach him some lessons as well as to teach her some lessons, because they are both hot-headed characters who are very cocky and try to, feel like their way is the best and do it that way. So at the beginning, Ahsoka was almost like a worse Anakin. We only saw Anakin as a kid and as a teenager in the first two movies, and we didn't really get the full young Anakin experience. But in the beginning of the show, we see Ahsoka very much being extremely headstrong, extremely annoying, always making these cocksure decisions and usually ending up being right, and not really being punished for her rash behavior. This was a storytelling choice that Dave Filoni made. She was universally disliked by the viewers, and these were character choices and storytelling choices that were intentional to make her character start off as somebody who you wouldn't generally like to be around or to have to work with, and then to progress her character throughout the series and make her a more well-rounded character. She's being a Jedi alongside established characters like Anakin and Obi-Wan and Yoda, characters that we've known for quite a long time, and to just introduce this new Padawan Jedi as a main star of the show is strange, and then to have her be an incredibly annoying part of the show is more strange, but that was part of the plan. There's a video that goes more in depth in this on YouTube. I believe it's by Lore Star, so you can go to YouTube and look up. They do a full breakdown of her going from being this annoying character to a better character and all the stuff that was kind of involved in that. As the character moves forward, she begins to learn and she begins to become a better, well-rounded Jedi who, knows how to make smart decisions and knows how to be patient. That was a big episode of her learning how to be patient. She has a great relationship as the show moves on with Anakin Skywalker. It's a very almost like older brother and younger sister relationship. They're always having fun banter and making jokes with each other, always there to kind of support each other, and even going as far as making fun of Obi-Wan and calling him a stick in the mud sometimes. Just having a good time and really growing together as characters. There's a lot of really good moments between the two, heartfelt moments that make you kind of realize that, this Ahsoka character really is kind of part of Anakin's story, even though we didn't get to see that in the earlier films or in the prequel films. So eventually Ahsoka, towards the end of the show, she's come a long way at this point and she's a well-established character. I was kind of wondering as I watched the show, well, what happens to Ahsoka? Is she going to get killed during Order 66? What's going to happen? There's a couple episodes or 1 or 2 where she is framed for bombing the Jedi Temple. She has to go on the run, and she has to defend herself from everybody hunting her down and blaming her. And then ultimately, the Jedi Council does not back her up. When she says, I didn't do this, I wouldn't do this, I was framed, the Jedi Council doesn't back her up. And then after they prove her innocence, the council is like, you're innocent, and we want you to come back into the Jedi Order and be a full Jedi Knight, and all the good stuff. Ahsoka makes the decision that no, she kind of gets disillusioned to how the council works, and she decides, no, I don't think I want to walk this path, and she leaves to figure out what she wants to do in her life. And it was a tough scene. It was an emotional part of the show to see her leaving Anakin and the relationship that they had after what happened. So there was a brief hiatus where, the Clone Wars was over, but they started making new shows, and, things were happening. I believe she showed up on Star Wars Rebels before the final season of the Clone Wars, which the final season really just kind of wrapped up what happened with Ahsoka during Order 66 and introduced the Bad Batch. At the end of the series, there were a couple filler episodes, but at the end, Ahsoka and Bo-Katan, who we see in the Mandalorian show, lead a siege on Mandalore against the Death Watch, which is a group of extremist Mandalorians who believe their way is the best, and they're working for Darth Maul. They're also getting a little bit into the lore. The Death Watch is an extremist group who kind of an offshoot of that extremist group is the group of Mandalorians which Din Djarin, the Mandalorian, comes from in his show. They're not quite as bad as the Death Watchers, but they are also an extremist Mandalorian group. On Mandalore, Ahsoka encounters Darth Maul. They have a brief conversation where, he's trying to explain that the Sith are ramping up. Darth Sidious has this mass genocide plan, and that Anakin Skywalker is pivotal in this plan and has been groomed by his new master. So Ahsoka doesn't believe Darth Maul, obviously. He even offers for her to join him, and they can stop this, or they can bring an end to the Sith and probably the Jedi. But again, she refuses, and they have an epic battle. One of my favorite lightsaber battles. It really was beautiful how they did this scene. A lot of this battle is mocap with the original Darth Maul, played by Ray Park. Really epic battle. If you haven't seen it, even if you're not a fan of the Clone Wars show, definitely go on YouTube and look up this battle, because it's all mocap. It's really cool to watch. But after that, they capture Darth Maul. They're trying to transport him back to Coruscant, and that's when Order 66 happens. Ahsoka is on a ship with a lot of the members of the 501st, who are the clones that we've been following throughout the Clone Wars. So the Clone Wars is kind of a story about Ahsoka and about the 501st Legion, the first clones entering the war, and specifically a couple of the clones, one of which is Rex, who has been Ahsoka's friend since the beginning of the show. He's been a pivotal part of the show. Their relationship is, they're very close. He's served with her for a few years. And this incident happens as they're in transit. She doesn't expect it. Obviously, none of the Jedi expected it. But Rex starts having issues. He's trying to fulfill the order, but also trying to stop himself from fulfilling the order. Ahsoka eventually gets surrounded. She jumps up on a table. She's brandishing her lightsabers. Her lightsabers had been taken away after she left the Jedi Order, and these new ones were ones that Anakin gave her right before he left to do his mission guarding Emperor Palpatine. So the last thing the last interaction between them was right before the events of Revenge of the Sith. He gives her these lightsabers. They have a nice interaction with each other, and then he leaves. But then she's surrounded by clones. She's on this ship. She's by herself. She can't trust anybody around her, and she manages to extract I guess it's kind of a biomechanical chip that's in their brain. She manages to extract that from Rex and Rex only. And it's them two against all of the other clones on the ship. Clones that are, at this point, out of respect for Ahsoka, they painted their masks with the orange color of her skin and the markings on their face because they love her so much as a general, as a commander. Eventually, Darth Maul escapes, the ship crashes, and only Rex and Ahsoka survive. And Ahsoka leaves her lightsabers at the scene, with the ship. She made a lot of graves for the clone troopers. And then there's a great scene afterwards where Darth Vader, it has to be months or weeks or could be years afterwards, and he finds the lightsabers that he gave her, sort of confirming in his mind that she's alive. After this, it transitions into Star Wars Rebels, where Ahsoka's not as much of a big player, but she's a key player. She saves Ezra Bridger and Kanan Jarrus from Inquisitors, and she's a big part of forming the rebellion with Bail Organa, Leia Organa's father. In this show, we finally get the kind of climactic reuniting to Ahsoka and Anakin. She encounters him first. He's in a TIE fighter chasing after the rebels in the show, and she feels the Force and senses that Darth Vader is Anakin Skywalker, which she did not know before. But they have a final battle on a Sith planet, and it's assumed that Ahsoka dies in this battle. But it was a really intense moment where she's telling him that she'll do whatever it takes, and he's telling her that he destroyed Anakin Skywalker. There's no Anakin Skywalker here. She tells him that she'll avenge her master. So there's this really epic fight scene between the two. She cuts off his mask, exposing, his red eyes. And there's a moment where you feel like he recognizes her fully, where it's Anakin Skywalker and not Darth Vader. And she realizes this as well. And she says that she's not going to leave him. She's not going to leave her master behind like she did before when she left the Jedi Order. He's not going to spare her. He says he's going to destroy her or whatever. And the last thing you see in Rebels of them is kind of this dome closing. Eventually, Ezra comes back through. He enters a time portal and pulls Ahsoka out of this moment in time. It's a little convoluted if you don't know the show, but long story short, Ezra kind of saves her. A future version of Ezra saves her and pulls her back into the timeline so she doesn't die. At the end of Rebels, Ahsoka and Sabine Wren, another Mandalorian, set out on an adventure to find Ezra Bridger. He uses the Force and his Force ability to sort of communicate with animals. He and a couple of space whales grab the main bad guy, Admiral Thrawn, and they transport somewhere. I don't know where. They just, with the power of the space whales, transport somewhere. It's a little wacky. It's a little crazy, but that's, Star Wars is kind of a crazy place to be. So that's where Rebels ended off. We didn't know where Ezra was. We didn't know where Admiral Thrawn was. And Ahsoka Tano and Sabine Wren were off on an adventure to find them. And that was kind of the end. That's kind of where we figured it would end. I at least didn't expect to see her in The Mandalorian, because we also heard her voice when Rey is hearing the voices of the dead Jedi. We hear Ahsoka's voice, kind of confirming that at that time, at least, she's dead. But we did see her again in an episode of The Mandalorian She comes back to help the Mando with his, little green Grogu problem. What to do with this Force being, this creature that he knows nothing about. He doesn't know about the Force. He doesn't know about the Jedi. And she kind of tells him, I can't really train him. I'm not really a Jedi. You're going to have to find an actual Jedi, and sends him on another journey to find another Jedi. And ultimately, he finds Luke Skywalker, which is really fun and also something I didn't expect, which led to kind of a really great moment in the Book of Boba Fett where we get to see Ahsoka Tano and Luke Skywalker interacting. It's really sweet to see how, as a child, she trained from Anakin and had such a strong bond with Anakin. Then all these years later, to be kind of watching Anakin's son train somebody else and their interactions with each other as two people who have gone through such difficult things with Anakin Skywalker. She ultimately wasn't able to save her master, but Luke was. He was able to save his father, which is a really cool thing to see. And it kind of harkens back to a previous episode where we talked about Star Wars. One of its main storytelling elements is hope. It's all about not giving up on, even those that you think are too far gone. And she gets to see that, even though Anakin's dead at this point, she gets to know that Luke saved him, essentially, that he brought him back, which is really cool. And then finally, we have the future of Ahsoka Tano. What is she going to be doing? What is this new show going to be about? I think it's really interesting in the artwork that they've put up. I don't believe this is an official art piece, but the Ahsoka part of it with the lines and everything is. And those lines are actually really important because in Rebels, the scene where Ezra pulls her out of the past, the space-time kind of place that he's in is made up of those lines, of those glowing things. And it looks very reminiscent of this pattern that we see behind the word Ahsoka. So we don't know what she's going to be doing. We don't have any information. But my prediction is going to be that it has to do with either Ezra Bridger, Sabine Wren, potentially, and perhaps Admiral Thrawn. I think Admiral Thrawn is going to be making his big return. He was mentioned in The Mandalorian. I think he's going to be making his big return in the Ahsoka show. We've had the building stages. We've seen Ahsoka go from being a brat to being a good Jedi on the run, helping form the rebellion, to now kind of a teacher and a kind of the Yoda-like character that our Jedi characters and our characters who need wisdom go to in this new era of Star Wars in the shows. I think we're going to get a little bit more of development on where she is now. She's obviously not the same person that we saw in Rebels. She's experienced the downfall of the Empire, and now she's kind of free to do whatever it is that she does. And we know from the novel, which I didn't get into, she's kind of all about helping people, going out and doing what she can for, communities and people. I think we're going to get to see a little bit of that, but I'm hoping that it's going to be a more linear story of her combating the return of Admiral Thrawn. So tell me what you guys think down in the comments. What do you think the new Ahsoka show is going to be about? What are your favorite moments from some of the Clone Wars, Rebels, Mandalorian, Boba Fett? What are some of your favorite Ahsoka Tano moments, and where do you think that this character is going to go, and how is she going to interact in the future with other characters in the new Star Wars TV shows and movies? If you liked this video, if you thought it was informative, please leave a like and subscribe. We also have a podcast channel where we go more in depth into movies and shows and all sorts of stuff. We just have a good time. So check that out. That's the Wise Words Podcast. Subscribe over there. Check out the Patreon, and we will see you guys in the next video.